My name is spelled Marilou. Last name Roth, R-O-T-H. I live at 6920 North 30th Street. A lot of what has been said earlier tonight are things that I have been thinking about. I am the parent of 4 OPS children, 3 who have graduated, 2 who are currently serving in U.S. military. And I want to say that the OPS experience overall has been a very good one. I'm thankful to you for the education that my kids have received. However, over the last several years, in regards to HGD as it is, I have had trouble keeping my girls out of HGD situations. I am an educated scientist. I am trained in reproductive physiology, microbiology, molecular biology, and genetics. I understand that engaging in sexual behavior comes with consequences, and I have taught my children faithfully what those consequences are. I believe it is my right and my responsibility to do so, and I really am insulted, especially this last spring when I was told by an HGD teacher that I should not have the option to opt out. When I am fully equipped, educated, up to date, I read the literature, I understand what's going on. I want to be able to teach my children the truth. Medically accurate, age-appropriate truth. I received some information when I walked in from the cheer people, and I do appreciate this information. I do feel kind of that it glosses over things. I do believe in sex ed in regards to the fact that my kids should know what their body parts are, how they work in general. But it is my responsibility to teach them what that means when they engage in those behaviors. What is normal, what is not normal. For instance, it says 3rd to 5th graders are going to be learning about HIV. That's age appropriate and accurate. Do you teach those children, 9-year-olds, some of them, that you will be getting HIV if not through infected needles by anal sex? What 9-year-old really needs to know that? Also, there's a couple of other things. I just want to keep it really short. As a scientist and as somebody with this allergy, working with gloves, that 2 out of every 100 U.S. couples who use condoms consistently and correctly will experience an unintended pregnancy in 1 year. Do you also tell the students that a female is only fertile 3 days out of the month? That's what I told my children. My girls know this. They know their natural fertility. They know how to prevent a pregnancy. I pray that they do not engage in behavior that would put them at risk, but I also know that they understand the responsibility that goes with that should that occur. One other point about condoms. Carolyn LaGreca brought up the 85% failure rate, but it's even higher with STDs because you can get STDs every single time that you engage in sexual activity. That's all I have for this evening. I want to tell you guys thank you for letting me come and speak tonight and giving me a chance to be up here in front of you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is, I'm not sure how to pronounce the first name, and the last name is Lima, L-I-M-A. Is it Guadalupe?
Good evening. My name is Guadalupe Lima, and it's G-U-A-D-L-U-P-E, Lima, L-I-M-A. I live on 916 South 27th Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68105. I am here because I believe you are targeting low-income people, and I'm one of them. And I'm now going to tell you how much is my income by a month. A person who makes under $30,000 or $32,000 a year is considered a low income. So there is a lot of us that make that much money, and we are considered low income. When you made those surveys, you were targeting low income people, Hispanic and Black people. That's the only ones that you are concerned of the population being raised. There is no, you don't target any other people who is on the high income. You say that you were making phone calls to do that. I don't have any degrees like you do, but I am a mother, and I believe that I have the right to teach my child what he needs to do and how he has to behave. You should concern about grade, 12 grades. They don't even know how to read. They don't even. What are you teaching our kids? When those kids, if those kids pass each grade, you're not concerned what kind of grades they have. You're just passing them above. When they get into the real world, college, you can tell me what is the percentage of the drop in school. None of them stay. Why? Because it's not going to be the same thing in college. When they get in college, they're going to find the real world, and they're not going to pass with a C, with an F. There's no more C, there's no more passing. You need to teach our kids how to survive in the real world. Teaching them how to write, do math, simple math. As a kid in any school, if they know how to do simple algebra in high school, and you can ask any of them, and you say that we can up if we want our children to take the CSE class. When they get into college, they're going to need those credits to go into college. Did you let the parents know that? No. Now, there's another statement that you're targeting poor people who are in the free lunch program. If they don't sign up for that class, they're not going to be given lunch. I don't know how true is that. I don't know. But please teach our kids to read and write. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ann Myers. Ann Myers, please hold your applause. And after Ann Myers, Marla Wynn.
Hello, my name is Ann Myers, A-N-N-M-Y-E-R-S. I live at 13960 Frederick Circle. Ooh, hello. So, when all this comprehensive sex education discussion went up for debate, the words of my friend came to my mind. Hers were, she's a nurse and professor of this topic, and also the lessons of my Catholic upbringing through Catholic confirmation. This is vital because if you do any search online of any of these topics, your results will be awash in misinformation, some downright dangerous. However, today, as I reviewed the public feedback, I realized that there are some of those soft skills that need to be addressed as well. Specifically, in the 4th grade, Human Growth and Development Community Input, page 6 and 7, section G. The topic in G is, it is never the fault of the child if any way is wrong or uncomfortable, even if it's a family member. The last comment is, if wearing modest clothing or prudent behavior. This means somewhere there's a child that would report an incident to an adult. They would receive the response of, what were you wearing? What did you do to deserve this? The fact that someone feels this way is an appropriate response to a 9 or 10-year-old child tells me that there's obviously a need for handling some of these communication and social situations. We need to change "what were you wearing" to "I'm listening." Also, coming from a background of having an obstetrics mother, we see that a lot of the stuff that is taught outside of science is inaccurate. Again, do a web search. And as far as the other soft topics, I do think it's important that we discuss LGBT communities, not advocating one way or the other, but the knowledge needs to be there, again, avoiding misinformation on these topics. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Marla Wynn. And then after Marla, Samantha Boone and Hadley Forson.
Good evening. Thank you for your attention. I can say that I have honestly gotten an education. There are a few things I'm going to Google when I get home because there are some terms that I don't even know what they mean, and I've got grandkids. That concerns me. But my main point tonight is I would like to challenge each and every one of you, as well as all the parents and grandparents in the audience, that perhaps we're asking the wrong questions. And critically, we've heard "I'm for," "I'm against," as though that's the only question here. You know, vote on this, say yes or say no. Maybe the real question is, how can we create a solution that addresses specific using, like words like comprehensive. What does that mean to each of you? Share that with us. Because having a curriculum that is comprehensive sounds like a good thing. Do we have comprehensive math curriculum? Do we have comprehensive science curriculum? It would seem like that's important. It's probably, on your agenda some other time. Do we opt out of our science agenda? Do we opt out of our math agenda? Our comprehensive agenda? I don't know. But you would think that we should have some kind of ranking. If we've got 10 things we've got to teach in school, where is the sex education on that stack rank? And how consistent are we in delivering our solutions to our students? Are we consistent in the math but not in the science? Consistent in the science but not in the sex education? I think that we need to back up, and I would ask that each of you contribute to that and back up and say, it's not, we got these curriculum standards, we can vote on them yes or no, we either like it or we don't, but what is the objective or objectives? What are we trying to solve? And if we don't have a real good answer, which it sounds like from both sides, we don't have a real good answer because we don't have agreement. We have approximately, it sounds like 40% that are saying no way. I think it was 44-54 was the spread on some of your questions as far as we agree or don't agree. Sounds like there are problems that we can probably discuss about how we took the survey and so on, so that there might be a bias. Okay, let's be real. I challenge you as a group just to hear what's being said and address the issues honestly, openly, transparently.
1 minute.
It strikes me as a little odd that basically we're being asked as a group of parents to approve something that, for the most part, only 2 or 3 people in here actually have the specifics on. That doesn't seem appropriate. But I'm sure you can share those. So I would ask that you would do that.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Samantha Bourne and Hadley Furson. Okay. Hadley Forson and Samantha Bourne. Okay. Starkey?
Katya Starkey, K-A-T-J-A, Starkey, S-T-A-R-K-E-Y, 3406 North 65th Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68104. I would like to buy you all a Coke. It's been a very Bashingantahe is a vocabulary word from Africa, and it means a respected elder in the community. It is a word from the Kirundi language of Burundi, which I love. The beautiful thing about that word is you can never take the title. In America, you can take titles. You can earn titles. I'm hoping that here before us, we have Bashingantahe, which are respected elders in the community that can't take a title, but the community says, we bestow this title upon you because you are incredible leaders who care very much about the people you serve and make great decisions that throughout history you will be proud that you have made. My simple request, so not to repeat things that have been said, is that prior to things being decided upon and implemented in classrooms, that we see, my son's in kindergarten at Walnut Hill, that we see precise lesson plans in some capacity, because I know that electronically it's easy to disseminate information. So before things are presented to our kids, I would like them to present it specifically to the parents so there's not a hiddenness. I feel like there has been some truthfulness and some hiddenness. Hidden doesn't mean dishonest. It means it makes us nervous because we cannot tell what's actually being proposed. A content standard, and sorry, I've taught 17 years in OPS. I love our schools. I love our city. I'm committed. A content standard is a broad umbrella, but those little details and specifics that come underneath of it could go many different directions. So when I filled out my survey, and I thank any of you that took the time to read the extended pages of comments I made, a content standard, if I say yes, I might say no to 7 out of 10 of the details that come underneath. I want to know what specifically is going to be facing the kids in the lessons. I got a bookmark from the principal of my kid's school. Great things all kid needs from the Developmental Assets Search Institute. Among the top 8 categories that are most important are boundaries and expectations and positive values. Something else I took a picture of on the front wall of the school is the character pledge. We all know what's right. We all know what's good. We will do the things we know you should. I feel a little like Dr. Seuss, but that's what I'm going to leave us with, and I'm trusting the board to make wise decisions that we will be proud of in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sterling, and I'm not sure. To me, it looks like F6H. And so I apologize very much. Fleet, maybe?
I'm going to be a little nervous. This is the first time I've done this. So my name is Sterling Flott, and it's Sterling Flott. I do live in Omaha. My address is 2410 South 31st Street. I'm a little nervous about this progressiveness of this education we're doing for our children. And I really don't have a whole lot of notes here, but but basically 40 years ago, they started doing this, sex education, and a lot of people was in a big uproar about that at that time. And maybe even a little earlier, because I remember going to school then, but it was only for seniors. And it wasn't much sex education. Basically, it was just, knowing your body. Basically, what they're teaching now, kids in second grade and third grade, what used to be, when the first time out, was just for seniors in high school. And it makes me nervous, the progressiveness of this sex education that we're doing. Because once you let it out, you can't come back. You can't. And it's not the same sex education as 20 years ago when my children was going in school. It dropped down. And then now it's going to even younger kids. And I don't have no PhD telling me that it's in all the reports that it's good or bad. All I know is back then they had all the supports, all the data saying how good this is, how we need all this sex education, how all this stuff we need. And now all it was we're just using about 5, maybe 10 minutes out of the school weekly time. Now we're using so much time out of the school curriculum teaching the sex education, and there's a lot more other education that we need. The kids are failing, and we need to help these kids. And this country needs this education to these kids. We owe it to those kids. Not all this other stuff We need the reading and writing and literature, the history, but we're not giving it to the children anymore. Why? Because we're giving all the sex education stuff and all this other stuff, all this fluff stuff, but not the basics anymore. Why? Okay, they said right now we're having 40 years ago, we got to do this stuff to help the kids out. All it's done is got worse. It hasn't gotten better. Your own data proves that. But why can't we do it if we use the same concepts that we used on sex education as we used on drinking and smoking? We'd still be smoking in this room.
1 minute.
That's it. Thank you, and thank you guys for extending it so everybody could get there to speak.
Thank you. The next speaker is Catherine Lang.
I'm sorry, is it Catherine Wang or? Oh, it doesn't matter. Thank you so much, Catherine, C-A-T-H-E-R-I-N-E. Wang, W-A-N-G. I live in 3614 South 182nd Circle, Omaha, Nebraska. This is a great country. 26 years ago, I come to this country with $30 and borrowed. I don't even have a penny. I have to, this is a great country. And I remember when I'm in China, it's communist China. So the government know the best. They told the parents what to do. Because communist country, that's what they told. The government know the best to teach their children. So while in China, we listen to the radio. We have to keep very low volume because you can get arrested to listen to American radio. We heard American reach the moon. us, we study very hard and try to go to this country. And it's half a century ago. I'm old. And why today? The microphone doesn't. And I was very, very. I am American, and I'm proud to be American. Microphone doesn't work. We need the children to learn hard, to be proud as American, to have good work ethic, to study well, to build a good audio system at least. We need to put American flag back to the moon. And now American astronaut doesn't even have the space shuttle. We don't have a vehicle go back to the moon. We have to hitch a ride from Russia. What's wrong with it? And while American children are studying sex education, the rest of the world children are learning English. While American children, my children, I was shocked. For me, you can hear I have an accent. I consider it's a handicap. When I, approach the patient, I really have problem, So I always teach my children, you were born in America, study English well. So when they ask me, when they told me they never even taught grammar, and I have to teach them about English grammar, and I was shocked. English is my second language. Why American school doesn't teach their own children about English grammar? They don't even know English grammar, and I have to teach them. And I was like, this is like unbelievable. Please teach these children to be proud as American and study hard and put the American flag back to the moon.
Thank you very much. That was our last speaker. Ms. Underwood?
In light of the fact that 2 board members are missing, I would move that we move item M to the postpone officer elections until January 20th.
Motion by Mrs. Underwood, second by Ms. Merrick to move item M, board officer elections, to postpone it to the January 20th meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing, A majority vote.
I'm sure it'll pass. I just was.
Yep. Roll call, please, Mr. Ray.
America.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Goding.
Aye.
7 aye.
Motion carries. With that, we'll move to the consent agenda. I think there's is there any, is there a motion to, or I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda that's before us?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Underwood. Are there any abstentions? I think, Mrs. Fay, do you have one? I think Mrs. Fay has the abstention. Whoops.
The claim?
Claims
I
report.
looked at it.
C, I think. Claims report C.
Kicked off.
I just got kicked off too, so. Are you off? Are you on?
I just got kicked off the.
Sorry, I did too.
I can't look at the meeting.
Claims Claims Report C, page 2, and it is the Artery, maybe, or Humanities Nebraska.
So I'll be abstaining from,
Claims Report C, which is
I can't see it
item
anymore,
I-5, sorry.
thank you.
Are there any other abstentions? So there's a motion by Ms. Williams, a second by Mrs. Underwood to approve the consent agenda with Mrs. Fay abstaining from item I-5. Roll call, please.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Gadding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
7-9.
Motion carries. So with that, we'll move on to information items. J1A, Committee of the Board updates. The Accountability Committee is meeting, I think, this Thursday. The Budget and Audit Committee will probably start meeting again shortly. Communications and Policy postponed in December. Americanism did not meet. With that, Student Assignment Plan, Mrs. Underwood.
Really, what's been going on with the student assignment plan recently is just a lot of communication. We've just been trying to get the word out, or the district has been trying to get the word out on the changes upcoming for 17-18. Letters were sent out to pre-K to 6 families. And this week, a postcard will be going to those families who will be impacted by the student assignment plan changes. And then there's a meeting with the principals on January 12th. I also wanted to share that the website is up and running, which is actually, I was playing around with it yesterday. It's actually pretty handy. You just enter in your address and it will give you the options for school selection with transportation or without transportation. And Mr. Ray is pulling that up right now. And then the other thing we wanted to share with you was a little video similar to what was done for the calendar development. The district developed a video for the student assignment plan. So we've got 2 items to show you guys on that, as long as technology is working in our favor.
If the mic is on, I do want to thank Doug in the booth for working so diligently to constantly be plugging in the board, and we apologize very much for the fact that the board went out tonight. So he did a great job of hanging in there for 3 hours of public comment. So Doug, we thank you.
Into effect for the 2017-2018 school. The student assignment plan was adopted by the school board earlier this year and goes into effect for the 2017. Plan, students are always guaranteed their neighborhood school. Now, if your student already attends their neighborhood elementary or middle school, none of the changes we're about to describe apply except these. In 2016-2017, middle school students attending their neighborhood school will receive transportation if they live more than 1.5 miles from that school. And in 2017-2018, elementary students attending their neighborhood school will receive transportation if they live more than 1 mile from that school. Okay, on to the details of the new plan. The new plan for 17-18 creates 8 partner zones for elementary schools and 4 partner zones for middle schools. Let's take elementary partner zone 1, for example. It contains Belvedere, Florence, Fullerton, Masters, Prairie Wind, Saddlebrook, and Wakanda elementary schools. Now, if your neighborhood school is Belvedere, you live in Zone 1. Your child is guaranteed a spot at Belvedere. Plus, you'd also receive district-provided transportation if you live more than 1 mile from Belvedere. However, if you live 1 mile or less from Belvedere, then you would not receive transportation. Additionally, if there is space available, your child could apply to attend any of the other Zone 1 schools and receive transportation if you live more than 1 mile from that school. Again, though, if you live 1 mile or less from that school, you would not receive transportation. You could also apply to attend any other school in the other 7 partner zones, but transportation would not be provided. Additionally, if your child continues to attend a school outside of their partner zone in 2017-2018, they will no longer receive transportation to that school. The new plan works similarly at the middle school level. The only differences are that there are 4 partner zones, and transportation is only provided if you live more than 1.5 miles from the school. For additional information, please visit sap.ops.org.
So again, this website is available on sap.ops.org. It's also linked from the ops.org website. That same video is translated in 5 different languages as well. And as Mrs. Underwood made reference, first, you know, it makes my heart warm to hear Todd's voice again, which I'm sure he's very upset that he's not here tonight. Thank you. But also thanks Todd and Dara for their work on this video. They spent a lot of quality time working through this and ironing out all the bugs. So, not the 20, right. Thanks to them for putting the time and effort into making that video. So as Mrs. Underwood said, one of the demonstrations that we did as part of the student assignment plan is some things from Seattle, some other school districts where they had a website where you can find your school. So this is set up currently and is active. It toggles between 2 school years because, again, we have 2 different plans, the 16-17 plan that we could never put into a 2-minute video, and the 17-18. So it allows you to put in your address by grade, and it will tell you where you get transportation to. And since we're all being transparent with our addresses tonight, I'll put mine in. So it'll tell me my elementary school, it'll give me an icon with a bus if I get it, and then a red X if I don't get it. So it boils it down to what schools I get to pick from for 17-18, and if I'm eligible. So it talks about your partner zone and what zone you're in, and then also is a map to the right. So that's very briefly some of the information that, if you remember back from the workshop, everybody agreed to us having this set up for the new student assignment plan. And so all is available now to our parents. Thank you.
I don't know if you had
No, don't-
anything
don't-
else.
don't.
I do want to say thank
C. Hughes spent a lot of time working this out and getting all the bugs. He was the webmaster.
That's great. So thank you so much to district staff for all their work on that. I know I've already had parents contact me and use the web-based piece for their addresses to figure out where they can get transportation, so thank you. The next legislative meeting is scheduled for January 14th. There have been no construction manager at risk, I believe. SSRR did not meet in December, or did meet in December? Okay, Ms. Williams?
We're
We met briefly in December, really diving into magnets, academies, but I don't think at this point, unless Mrs. Fay, there's anything you want to add, but I don't, or Mr. Vargas, really I don't know if we've made enough progress to really share out the conversation as of yet. We've continued to ask staff to bring us all the information. We've asked a lot of questions of magnets. We've asked a lot of questions of the academies and other specialty programs. And Connie Kanoki has joined us in really talking about the finance part that is attached to those so that we can bring some great recommendations to the board. But at this point, we really don't have that much to share. But I will digress to my colleagues.
No, she forgot that I was there. So do you have comments you want to add?
I think the only other conversations we had were beginning to step back and identify the characteristics, the determinants that we're using to evaluate each of the different school models, and then beginning to bring back and have a conversation also about the funding, and specifically about the magnet funding for our high school models, because the formula hasn't been addressed for some time. That's something we also talked to the district about coming back to.
Very good. We will hear from CBOC in a few minutes, and then the Code of Conduct Committee, Mr. Snow.
Thank you. The Code of Conduct met on December 10th. We were trying to figure out what kind of direction we want to take in 2016, but we'll be to the committee as well as to the board to really kind of focus on 1.2.4, 2.4.1, and 2.4.2 that spring we could come back with you guys with a new focus on the code, as well as probably offering a seat with an OEA rep, a parent rep, and an expert in behavioral health. So,
very good. How about if we go to the, I'd like to move J21C, and I just lost my internet connection again. The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, if they could go before the Jacobs piece, just because I know we've got folks from the community that are here. Are they still here? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
I do thank you for this time on the agenda to speak on behalf of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. There are approximately 21 of us who meet with about 10 OPS and program management staff members on a monthly basis. We have about 4 charges that we're given as we are undertaking this. Part of what we're responsible for doing is making sure that we are consistent and that we are implementing in accordance with what the community understands us to be doing. Part of our other responsibility to the community is to make sure that we are managing and understanding that, and making sure that everyone understands that we're within the appropriate scope, budget, and schedule for the bond implementation. We want to make sure also that we're consistent with the needs of the district and that we are also supporting the district strategic plan. Part of my own personal interest for serving on the CBOC is to make sure that there is adequate community engagement. So generally when we have a meeting, I'm asking questions about community engagement, what information is actually given out to the community. Generally, there are folks who are asking me questions about the bond implementation, and what I'd like to see more of, and what I'm seeing more of, is the community empowered to really even just ask the right questions. two of the specific community initiatives or community efforts that work with the schools at the school level to have input on what's going on at the schools. What's important to me is the economic inclusion work, and I requested an update and just recently got an update, but I'm awfully pleased with the level of commitment to and the work that has gone into making good on our promise to include small and emerging businesses and minority contractors in the work. So that's really what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you.
Mr. Snow has a question for you, I think.
Yes, I understand. Thank you for volunteering to serve on this committee and being that community advocate for families that wouldn't have or the opportunity to bring up those questions. And this will probably be for Dr. Turnquist, but for the information that members of CBOC would like, would it be possible that we could share that with board members as well to kind of alleviate questions? Like if she wanted additional information, you just share that with the board in a simple email with that,
And that might be for them to answer, but one of the things that I've been most pleased with is not only do I get the information on a monthly basis, but it's also on the website. Our most recent meeting on December the 9th is already uploaded on the bond website.
Awesome.
So it's there for community, and I do frequently send community to the page to get that information.
Thank you.
And that's what I was going to say, Mr. Snow.
Awesome.
It's on the website.
Awesome. I should look at the website then, I guess.
It is a pretty cool website, I will say that. It's been very fun to go out when people ask about the status of the buildings that they're in, and so I've appreciated that. Thank you as well for serving and taking time out of your busy schedule once a month to go to these meetings and then be there to advocate for the work that's being done. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Wayne has a question.
First, thank you for serving. I just wanted to make it known to the public. I was listening driving back to Omaha, and it is really annoying when the mic keeps cutting off as you're listening to on your iPhone or whatever you're listening to. But with that, I just wanted the public to know I no longer serve on the CBOC. I do own a small construction company in Omaha, and because of my business relationships that I have with many other construction firms right now, I felt it was best that I step off, just so this oversight committee, that I'm not stepping on any of their toes, or not stepping on any of my toes, but that way it's clean. And I don't know who was replaced for me as a board member, but I wanted the public to know that's why I stepped off of the CBOC committee.
We are still working on a replacement, so if someone would like to volunteer for that role from the board, we would appreciate it. Again, thank you very much, and I'm off the internet, but I think the item is, what was J1B is now J1C, Jacob's update. Thank you.
Let me... Sorry. There is no
have just a brief PowerPoint that we'll go through, and then we also have a video. I don't want to upstage anybody, but that communications put together the thank you to Omaha regarding the bond program and some of the progress that has been made to date and some of the things that will happen in the future. It's just a 2-minute. I'm just going to kind of work through quickly this agenda here, talk about an overview and some of the metrics that we always monitor, economic inclusion, just quickly work through a list of recent project activities, and then I always like to touch on some of the challenges that we're continuing to work through. Not a lot of this information has changed least since the last time we provided an update. Again, you have a very large bond program, but I always like to provide a little bit of information regarding some of the finances. So generally speaking, the program's at about 11% complete. We know that by the amount of contracts that have been written, which is $46 million, and to date, the district's issued checks in the amount of $22.8 million approximately, or about 5% of the program. Program contingency usage is still trending in about the same, at the same rate. We're still under 1%, which is good. Regarding program contingency, we also had a few recent bid awards that you approved tonight, and a couple of other projects that have recently come in that are on or under budget. So we feel like that trend is is something that we're really going to work hard to maintain. Programs on schedule and on budget. We continue to monitor the schedule and look for the best opportunities to purchase work in the marketplace. And where we do have to make changes, we're making sure we're communicating those thoroughly with CBOC, the schools, in the communities that those would affect. Zero incidences, which is always a big measurement for any kind of major construction program. Staff and students' safety is always at the highest priority, along with construction workers. The big effort that we're focused on now over the next couple of months is really construction procurement. Just a quick note there, we've done procurement of about $10 million over the last month, and over the next 4 months we'll do an additional $115 million. So with that comes a lot of discussions with the prime contractors and the subcontractor community, trying to make sure we have a good pulse on the market, understand what other projects are going to be in the marketplace, so that way we're not competing for the same bidders. But we are seeing good coverage of the projects that we are issuing to bid, which is a great sign. We're also seeing the introduction of a few new contractors, which again is a good sign that the contracting community has recognized OPS as a good owner and as an owner that they want to do business. Really on a daily basis, we still continue to work to try to enhance the plan, whether that's through technical support, continuing to work with our community agencies, or doing one-on-one discussions with the small businesses. The next Jacobs Academy, as we noted there, we anticipate it being full. We're targeting about community and the small businesses. One of the things that we are seeing is a good increase in the number of bidding opportunities with the unbundling process that we talked about a couple of months ago. So we're definitely seeing a lot more opportunity. The other piece that we're going to focus on a little bit more in this academy with the small businesses is the utilization of technology. So we're working with, we're working to plan an event down at the Dew Space in a couple of months to figure out how we can introduce some of the small businesses to technology. What components of technology do they really feel they need, and what's the easiest way to do that without putting them in an intimidating environment where they can be saturated with that information. But economic inclusion, from a metrics perspective, you can see there, to date the district's written about $39 million worth of contracts, and of those contracts, we've gotten inclusion commitments of almost $4 million, or $3.9 million, and we've paid out about $3 million of that total. So again, continuing to trend in the right direction. As we move towards some of the larger procurements, we really have to be strategic on the unbundling process, really gain partnership and a teaming approach with the prime contractors, whether that's a CMR or a general contractor in the hard bid atmosphere. And that's one of the reasons why we continue to meet with them to try to uncover barriers that they see or risks that they may feel they have in the marketplace utilizing inclusion. Recent activities, not going to go through all of these, but this is the last several months. And what you see here really is an example of all of the work that the board has been doing via approvals. A lot of design approvals, of course, bid approvals, site procurement, We've had information items on different swing space opportunities, but all of these, all of these line items here represent progress inside of the bond program. So I wanted to make sure everybody has a good perspective that we may not have a lot of bulldozers and big things moving around now, but this is all the preceding action items that need to be approved to get to that point. So a lot of things going on, and will continue to go on. Again, just echoing some of those same things we previously noted. Challenges in the short term, the construction procurement, really the schedule and the strategy that we're implementing, wanting to make sure that we keep that as a focus. Working to hit the design milestones that are associated with the project still in design, and then really working with the buildings and grounds, different departments, environmental, operations, and maintenance on moves and work that really need to happen at the beginning of the summer, which is going to be a pretty significant effort. There's several schools that will be moving into swing space, and then on top of all those, there's grade configuration moves, there's students. Out there in the market about all the potential projects that are still happening in Omaha, and again, we're trying to stay in front of that, and I think we've done a very good job of that so far, and we'll keep working to do that. I mentioned this several times, so I apologize for the broken recordness, but the program is still moving at a very quick pace. It was built that way to begin with, and it'll continue to do that. So there's challenges that come with that. We always strategically try to look a few months ahead of time to make some decisions about scheduling, again, from a procurement perspective and an impact to students and how we can minimize those types of things. The other challenge that's out there is really mobilizing contractors. Once we do make an award, not waiting several months to get mobilized and get things situated. We like to really incentivize the contractors contractually. Here's your start date. We expect you to be started and have things moving. And then I can answer any questions. And that's all I have for this evening. Any questions?
Todd was busy making videos
Yeah,
before he left,
yeah.
wasn't he? Mr. Snell, please.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you've done. Just a quick question. I know you were talking about potential projects that possibly could come up in the community to slow down the bond work. Are there any projects that you know of that are coming in the future that are going to be large enough that we should know about, or
I would say,
to let people?
I would say not definitively this particular one or that particular one. Typically, what we try to find out really is what projects might be bidding on the exact same day, and then we just kind of internally have a discussion of, if we move it to a Thursday instead of a Tuesday, what does that do? We make a few phone calls to the prime contractors and try to identify, if we do that, does that help? You know, so it's not moving things,
So you do kinda
major
work
days.
with those
Yeah, but
potential-
there's typically 2 days the district receives bids, it's a Tuesday or a Thursday. So we just try to make sure, especially if there's neighboring school districts bidding the same type of work on the same day, we have some of those provisions built into the schedule, so it just makes sense to execute against those and not try to get into that, well, we're going to try to use the same guy on the same day type of bid scenario. So nothing where strategically it changed the schedule of the program, but there are, I think it was South High's bid date was initially going to be a Tuesday. We found out there was another similar project bidding, so we said, let's move it to a Thursday, and it helped. We got 4 or 5 bidders, we got numbers under budget. It was just the right thing to do. If we would have tried to force it on the same day, probably wouldn't have had the same success.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay, if not, we're going to move on to item J1D, Human Growth and Development Update on the proposed content standards. Dr. Kerberg.
It's going to forget just a second.
If I could invite Leticia Fitch to help us out with giving directions on translations. You think we're good? Okay. In that case, Jennifer and Lindsay, I think we're good then. Okay. Thank you for doing that.
Or do you want the national weather service?
Did the translators leave already? Do we still have them?
No, I thought they were going to be here.
They should still be here.
I thought
so
they were
that
going to
this
be
is translated.
Right, I thought they were
recording.
going to be here during this period, specifically with the mic pieces.
Is Leticia still here?
I mean, he was just here.
I just asked if Leticia was here, and they said that there was no one needing translation, if that's not true.
No.
Does anyone need translation in the
Is
room?
there anyone that needs translation?
No, we're talking about for the recording, for people listening to this, making sure that there's some...
Okay, so we'll just have to make sure that someone records a translation of this.
Okay.
We'll have to get a
We will go
translation
ahead
of
and
this.
do that. We'll
Yeah.
get a translated version of this available on the web so that it's provided that way. And I did just find out, Mrs. Mayberger did ask and go from group to group, and she was told there was no one in the audience that needed translation. So we did release the translator who asked if she could go home.
And I was just reminded that we don't, right.
Oh, so that's not needed? Okay. All right.
So whatever you want.
All right.
Do you want the presentation first?
Yeah, I do, yeah. It's got to be the PowerPoint. There we go. Okay. All right. I'd like to just start by telling this Board of Education thank you. You've gotten an inordinate amount of input on this topic, emails, et cetera, and we appreciate the fact that you're here tonight and have been willing to embark on this. And you have updated, just for the records, industrial technology, reading, language arts, mathematics, social studies, and science. And so you have looked at all of our curricular areas, and we value the fact that you're looking at this one as well. It has been 30 30 years. A lot has changed in 30 years, and we now have internet, we have more materials, misinformation, and information provided to students through different means and social media than we've ever had before. So it is a perfect time for us to take a look at what we can do to update our content standards. You have asked us to embark on that, and we have. So what we're going to be presenting tonight is the material from the Human Growth and Development Community Input. We'll be providing the Youth Risk Behavior Survey information, and we'll also be providing information about some of the local data that we procured through the telephone survey. So you'll hear all that. But I want to start first with the second attachment. So if you're looking online, the first thing in the PowerPoint that we want to draw your attention to is a very brief review. Here's what we've done thus far in terms of, and if I want to go forward, and I want this in presentation mode. Click on that. Okay. There we go. And there we go. So if you look at the beginning of the PowerPoint, there's also a more detailed view of that. It's the second attachment. But to give you a sense of the timeline that we've already embarked on, 2 years ago we started this process, and there was 4 different presentations that have been made to the Board of Education, approximately 6 presentations that have been provided to our teachers, and of course the phone survey from last year, our first community forum in April, adjustments from May to September, a second community forum in October, a meeting with our South Omaha community leaders, and then, of course, tonight, in terms of our presentation, which is an information item, this is not a request for action. We're providing you the administration recommendation on our proposed content standards. I do want you to note the January 6th date will be changed. That did not work out as the time for the meeting with North Omaha community leaders, but that will be rescheduled. And then you can see in the future, board workshop, approval of the content standards, and then we actually look at curriculum. And that's when you have parent input, parent meetings, staff meetings, you field test, you select, you get input from teachers, they place a vote, we take it back to the board in late spring for your review and final approval of actual curriculum. And that gets to the heart of the details, which includes things like pacing guides, etc., with implementation for the fall. So that gives you a sense of the timeline, and we've had that out there at every board presentation. So we would just want to be sure our public knows we go through that process for every curriculum adoption, which includes human growth and development. And then we maintain the same opt-in, opt-out standards we've had. In grades 4 and 5, that's 4 lessons with a school nurse. At grade 6, it's 5 lessons with a school nurse. At grade 7 and 8, that's a quarter class. And at grade 10, that's a semester class. Parents can opt out for the entire course, or they could opt out for specific lessons within the course. That does not change. What we did want you to hear was some of the research and details. We've got 2 colleagues. You just heard Jennifer LeClaire introduced as the Ponca principal. That she is. The other half-time part of her job is elementary supervisor, and she's specifically in science and health education, and her special project has been in human growth and development. So Jennifer will be presenting on this. And then the other individual is Lindsay Bandow, and of course you know Lindsay from our research division. And I think this is the last week we get to work with Lindsay, if that might be true. She's going on to another position, and so we're lucky to have her for tonight. She's done the work for us in the research division on this, under the leadership of Scott Schmidt-Bonney. And I'd like to defer at this time to Jennifer LeClaire.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm just going to share with you tonight some data that we've gathered from community surveys, from our students, from other community organizations, just so you have a basis for where we're getting information from. The first thing that we'd like to talk about is where teens are getting information about teen pregnancy and STDs. You can see that this information will come from a study done by Dr. Melissa Tibbetts at UNMC. Let's make sure sorry. Good grief. There we go. This slide talks about where students get information about, or where they can go to get current information about teen pregnancy and STDs. And we just want to highlight that the highest number of respondents said that they go to human growth and development and health classes that are offered. So we feel like that is an important part of what we do as educators. The next slide here is just a little bit more information about where youth are going for information about teen pregnancy and STDs. And you can see that, again, human growth and development was the third most mentioned source of information, and then shortly followed by parents. Remember, this was a youth survey, so this is what students were saying about where they're getting their information. The next piece of data that we wanted to share with you briefly was about the rate of teen sexual activity. This comes from the 2014 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and this includes Douglas County. So this is actually 1,100 high school students from 16 different high schools in Douglas County. The key statistic that we wanted to look at here when we think about percentage of students who are having sexual intercourse, number one, if we look at Douglas County, we are actually below the United States percentage. But then if we look specifically at grades 9 through 12, we can see that 50% of, approximately 50% of 11th and 12th graders are saying that they have had sexual intercourse. So that's a key statistic for us as we think about having human growth and development in 10th grade for students. This is another piece of information. Are having sex before the age of 13. And more importantly, that last statistic, that almost a quarter of students are using drug and alcohol, did use drugs or alcohol before the last time that they had sexual intercourse. Those are all things. I'm going to turn this over to Lindsay so she can talk to you specifically about what OPS parents said in the phone survey, and then what data we gathered from the community input.
So OPS has received feedback from 2 surveys, as she mentioned. The first was the parent phone survey. For this survey, we utilized a random sample of 1,505 parents stratified by race, ethnicity, language, student gender, and student lunch program participation. This survey asked respondents to give their input on whether or not OPS should be teaching certain topics, and if so, at what grade they felt it was appropriate to teach it. Results for this survey were presented to you previously, so I won't spend a ton of time on those slides, but I will kind of refresh those. We also had a parent community survey available at the forum that Curriculum did at the TAC building, and also that survey they provided was put online. So we accepted online and paper surveys. The plan for this was to allow all parents and community members to submit input on the proposed changes to the Human Growth and Development Standards. 2,421 respondents started the survey, but most did not answer all questions, so I will report the number of respondents for each item on that particular survey. But on average, somewhere around 1,600 to 1,700 responded to any one item. We'll be focusing primarily on these survey results, as I said. as you've seen the results at an earlier date on the parent phone survey. Also of note is, as I said, we did accept those paper surveys that people filled out at the forum and also mailed in. We inputted those surveys into our online system. I also wanted to make a note, I know ballot stuffing was mentioned earlier as a concern. I reviewed various pieces of data, including IP address, latitude, longitude, how long the person took to take the survey, and their answers to the survey to determine to my best ability if ballot stuffing was a significant issue. And that data I reviewed indicated that it was not a real problem to be concerned about. We asked a few demographic type questions first to get a feel for who responded to the survey. 83% indicated that they lived in the Omaha Public School District. I also want to mention that at the bottom of the slide I indicate if this is the OPS Parent Community Survey or they were a parent guardian. Almost 53% indicated they were a parent or guardian of a current OPS student. We also asked those that indicated if they were a parent or guardian, what grade level or levels their child or children were in. Those who were not were compared, and there were no significant differences between these groups, so I collapsed across those in my results. I also looked at responses by sub-district. We had over 100 responses in every sub-district, the most in sub-district 3 with 418 responses, or 21% of the respondents that live in the OPS district. That indicated they lived in the OPS district. Results did differ by sub-district. Sub-district 3 and 5 showed the greatest agreement with items. Sub-district 8 showed the least agreement among sub-districts. However, a majority greater than 50%, typically much greater than 50% in all sub-districts agreed with the items. There were a few exceptions in sub-district 8 where agree and disagree were just under 50%. This was true for items on gender identity at 6th grade for Subdistrict 8, sexual orientation at 8th grade for Subdistrict 8, emergency contraception at 10th grade, and options available when experiencing an unintended pregnancy at 10th grade. I'll be going over various topics on the latest survey, asking parents in the community to provide their input on proposed changes to the curriculum, as well as presenting a brief refresher on results from the parent phone survey on corresponding topics. This first topic is emotions during puberty. Those that responded to the parent phone survey were overwhelmingly in support of covering this topic in human growth and development. The majority that agreed that it should be covered felt that 4th grade was actually too late to introduce this topic. However, there are no proposed changes to introduce puberty earlier than 4th grade. Curriculum is actually proposing updates to the 5th grade content. And here you see results for those. I should point out that the greenish if you're interested in looking at that as well. Parents in the community were generally in agreement with these more specific lessons on puberty at 5th grade. Agreement was in the high 70-80% agreement range.
From the survey, but we felt like we should give some background information, I guess, from the, again, this is from the 2014 Youth Risk Behavior Survey. So this is looking at Douglas County. And you can see from the pie graph there that approximately 45% of students that are having intercourse said that the last time they had sexual intercourse, they used condoms, which obviously, as we know, will also help to prevent STDs. You can also see that 28% of those students said that they were using birth control or some other form birth control pills, or some other form of birth control. And almost 1/5 of those students said that they are not using any method of protection when they have intercourse. We also wanted to look at some teen pregnancy rates. When we think about birth control, that obviously is related to teen pregnancy. This comes from the Douglas County Health Department in 2014. There we go. You can see that this is looking kind of at trend data for teen pregnancies, and it's broken down by race and ethnicity. Good grief, I'm having all kinds of issues here, aren't I? First I can't get it to go, and then it goes when I'm not ready. If you look at teen pregnancy rates from 1999 until 2013, you can see that there's been a decline in teen pregnancy rates in all race and ethnicity categories. So that is great. We also wanted to point out that this graph represents the percentage of teen births based on total births for each of the categories listed. So there's been a decline in teen pregnancy.
From the parent phone survey, we asked about condom use. Parents felt that condom use should be covered in their curriculum, and almost 64% felt that 10th grade was too late, while 35% felt that that was about the right time. We also asked parents on the phone survey about birth control methods. Parents felt that birth control methods should be covered. The majority thought that introducing birth control methods in 7th grade was about the right time. They were also asked about emergency contraceptive and told that this is not currently covered in OPS. About 66% of parents felt that emergency contraception should be covered in human growth and development. Just under 50% felt that this should be taught in 6th or 7th grade. However, I also indicate the national standards, which are in that box on the graph to the right. Um, 64% of parents felt that abortion should be covered. 33% felt that it should not be covered. Those that felt it should be covered did not come to a strong consensus on when it should be covered. Over 50% felt that it would be appropriate to introduce abortion in 7th or 10th grade. Also, again, you can see the national standards for that topic are 9th through 12th grade. On the last survey for the parents and community members, they were asked to provide feedback on reproductive preventative options. Although the parent phone survey results indicated that some parents felt these topics should be covered in middle school, the proposed changes are only for 10th grade. Between 70 and 80% were in agreement that lessons on emergency contraception, abortion, and adoption should be taught in 10th grade. There was a little less support for emergency contraceptive information and options when faced with an unintended pregnancy. Agreement was in the 60% range on that. And now we will go over sexually transmitted diseases.
This slide is just giving you a little bit of information about HIV in Nebraska, HIV and AIDS in Nebraska. Again, this comes from the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. And then we also wanted to share with you information about STD rates in Douglas County. You can see here that you can see some trend data, again, from 1999 to 2014. But underneath each of these STD cases where it indicates an increase of 5% in chlamydia rates, they're just looking at from 2013 to 2014. So from 2013 to 2014, there was a 5% increase in chlamydia rates in Douglas County, which is actually 44% above the national average. From 2013 to 2014, there was a 13% increase in gonorrhea in Douglas County, which is actually 46% above the national average. There was a 1.8%
Again, on the phone survey, we asked parents about sexually transmitted diseases. Parents felt that this should be covered in class. We also asked about HIV/AIDS prevention. They also felt this should be covered, with 68% indicating that 5th grade was about the right time to introduce the topic. On the OPS parent and community survey, we asked about infectious diseases and the proposed updates for 5th grade. The majority of parents and community members agreed, about in the 80% range, that specific lessons about infectious diseases should be covered in 5th grade. These items cover things like blood-borne pathogens as well as STDs. They were also asked about sexually transmitted diseases in 6th grade. Community and parent members also felt that these lessons should be covered in 6th grade. Again, approximately 80% in agreement there. And now we will cover gender identity and sexual orientation.
So for these statements, that acronym GLSEN stands for Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network. This is actually a national school climate survey. So we just wanted to share with you a few of the things that students said. They indicated 55% of the students, of LGBT students felt that like they were unsafe at school because of their sexual orientation, and a little over 37% because of their gender expression. Because of the feelings of being unsafe or uncomfortable, students were missing school. 30% of LGBT students missed at least one day of school, and a little over 10% missed 4 or more days of school. Also, students are avoiding going places because of the way that they feel. So 1/3 were avoiding gender-segregated spaces. For example, obviously you can see locker rooms and bathrooms. And many of them were avoiding school functions or extracurricular activities. In that same survey, students said that when they were in school, so speaking specifically to the school climate, almost 65% heard homophobic remarks. 51% of the students said that they heard negative remarks from teachers or the staff that work within that building. 74% indicated that they had been verbally harassed. 36% said that they had been physically harassed. 49% were harassed electronically. And 61% said that they reported harassment, but nothing happened.
We asked parents on the parent phone survey about sexual orientation and LGBT inclusion. About 73% of parents that took the phone survey felt that sexual orientation and LGBT should be covered in human growth and development. There wasn't a strong parents on the phone survey were also asked about gender identity. 70% of parents thought that gender identity should be covered in the curriculum, with almost 50% indicating that 6th or 7th grade would be an appropriate time to introduce the topic, and national standards indicate 6th to 8th grade for gender identity. Results from the latest parent and community survey. Over 50% of parents and community members felt that lessons on gender identity and gender roles should be covered in human growth and development in 6th grade. There was less support, 60% versus 80%, for lessons defining gender identity and gender roles than those about talking to parents or trusted adults and treating others with respect, even if they do not act in ways that society expects. They were also asked about some updates for gender identity and sexual orientation at 7th grade. Well over 50% of parents and community members felt that lessons on gender identity and sexual orientation should be covered in 7th grade. Agreement on these various items ranged from about 70 to 80%. They were also asked about this topic for 8th grade. Approximately 70 to 80% of parents and community members felt that these lessons should be covered in 8th grade. Out of these lessons, there was less support, 62.6% for the item reading, "A person's sexual orientation is based on how they feel, not their behavior." Parents and community members had the opportunity to provide feedback on the topic gender identity, biological sex, and sexual orientation at 10th grade. Approximately 70% of parents and community members felt that these lessons should be covered in 10th grade. A little less support in the 60% range for items defining gender identity and sexual orientation. The next topic is sexual assault, harassment, and abuse.
We just have a few infographics for you, and they come from this Darkness to Light, which is a national organization shedding light on sexual assault and abuse. So you can see here in that first infographic that what they found is 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before the age of 18. 90% of the sexual abuse victims will know their abuser. And of those who are sexually abused, 20% will be before they are 8 years old.
Topic. On the parent and community fourth grade. This topic was also asked for 8th grade. A very large majority, 80 to 90%, again, of parents and community members also felt that these lessons should be taught in 8th grade. And now we will talk about sex trafficking.
This is our final piece of data for you tonight, and it comes from the Child Rescue Network. And some pretty staggering statistics here about Nebraska. So if we think about sex trafficking in Nebraska, it is estimated that 2,000 human trafficking slaves are in Nebraska now. And that the average age a girl enters into prostitution is 13, with boys entering at the age of 12. In 2014, it's estimated that 1 in 6 runaways were likely sex trafficking victims. And that major sporting events, conventions, and tourist areas are prime targets for human traffickers. And they bring victims from all over the country to be offered as prostitutes in those venues. So, very frightening.
Parent and community members had the opportunity to provide their input on whether or not human sex trafficking should be discussed in 10th grade. 87.1% of parents and community members agreed that human sex trafficking should be part of the curriculum in 10th grade. We also covered some other topics in that parent and community survey that I kind of put together. All of them have in the 90% range agreement. These topics were immune systems and infections in 4th grade, diet and exercise in 5th grade, refusal skills in 6th grade, social media in 7th grade, goals, grit, and hope in 7th grade, and bullying in 10th grade. Again, a large majority agreed that these lessons should be covered.
I'd like to mention just a couple of other handouts that were provided as attachments. The public schools. I mention that because the different grade spans and grade levels for introduction of health education, we're starting at 4th grade. Those school districts all started at kindergarten and first. So there are different grade spans being used. I'd like to mention is handouts that are attachments 10, 11, 12, and 15 show you 2 versions of the Human Growth and Development Content Standards, and version A and version B. Version A is the proposed content standards that the community saw except for 2 changes at grade 10. And the changes at grade 10 you will find on handout 15, that's the second attachment from the bottom, and it's page 8, last page. So we wanted to be sure you knew what the difference was, and it's specific to eliminating abortion in the content standards and eliminating emergency contraception, which is also sometimes referred to as Plan B pill, if that helps you in terms of referencing that. And if you look at that particular page 8, which is the last page of the second to the bottom attachment, we did put in the 6 content standards that were removed so you could see those. So if you did want to see what that change was. And then the last handout on your document is the original proposed content standards, and that is handout or attachment 16. We also included all the community input, and then the recommendations or proposed options are A or B. You could keep the original standards but update the content. And although we didn't put it on there, of course, the Board of Education could also go with the original proposed content standards. The administrative recommendation, which is going to be A, and that is the modified proposed content standards with the change of eliminating abortion and the emergency contraceptive. And then There'll be a Human Growth and Development workshop time for conversation about this, certainly questions tonight. You can email us questions. We can collect all of those. We'll have staff there, from Sharon Wade, our nursing supervisor, to Karen Spencer-May, myself, others, Donna Dobson, Susan Christofferson, et cetera, as well as the two colleagues you heard from. And consideration on which version of those content standards you would like to have supported or proposed for action and approval. So that covers the presentation. If there's any questions.
I would ask the items that you just went through and shared with us what each one is. Would you be able to send out is this and handout 9 is this, so that we can quickly look at those items that you just mentioned? I started to write them down, but I got lost, so I apologize.
Yeah, it is, because there's so much content. Development as a standalone document, and then it's the last page in that document that we indicate what we've removed from it on the bottom section, so that you can see that. And we could even put that in a highlighted color. And then the original proposed content standards are the very last attachment. I could send that as well. But that shows you the difference between the two.
Great. If you can give us a list of what all those different items are, that would be great. I guess I would ask if there's detailed questions, if we could get those emailed. If you're not ready tonight, if we could email those to you by what, would it be best by Wednesday so that you could be prepared by next Monday?
That would be terrific. And we do have staff if you want to have questions tonight.
Right.
But since you do have a workshop topic set up, we thought you'd probably just want to digest everything and send us your questions. So that would be terrific. And Wednesday would be perfect, Mrs. Gotti.
Okay, so I guess, but if anyone has questions tonight, please ask those. But if we could just get staff by the end of the day Wednesday, which would give us 48 hours or so, that would be
terrific.
Great.
Yeah.
Are there any questions specific tonight? Okay, let's just plan on you getting questions from us then by Wednesday to be prepared to go over in greater detail and for us to be able to digest some of those other items that you just shared with us.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Yeah.
I've lost my, no, that's okay, my computer. So with that, the action item that we have, which is J2A, which is the 1,000 policies, I believe there have been a few changes that Mr. Ray and Mrs. Neelis Brush have not been able to get to yet because of getting ready for this evening. So we can go through those, or if someone would like to make a motion to postpone those to the next board meeting and give them some time to do some updates from input they received, we could do that as well. So whatever the pleasure of the board is.
I would move to postpone voting on item J2A until next board meeting.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to postpone voting on item J2A, the 1000 series, until the January 20th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
So motion by Mrs. Underwood and second by Ms. Williams. Is there any discussion? Okay, if not, roll call, please, Mr. Ray.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne. Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Gadding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Snow. Aye. 8 ayes.
Motion carries.
I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, Charles Wakefield, and legal counsel, personnel and litigation.
Is there a second?
Second.
So motion by Ms. Williams, second by Ms. Merica. Roll call, please.
Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne. Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Gadding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
8 aye.
Motion carries. Let me remind the board that the purpose for closed session is for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, Charles Wakefield, and legal counsel, personnel and litigation. Let the record reflect that the board went into closed session at 11:13 p.m.